Unfortunately, the boxing world lost a boxing legend, icon. I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but in the case of George Foreman, who passed away at 76 years old, it's completely accurate. George Foreman, after only a year and a half of boxing, which is insane, went and won a gold medal, went on to win a gold medal in the 1968 Summer Olympics. If you truly understand boxing, you know how crazy it is to box for a year and a half and go to the Summer Olympics and win gold. So I just want to give you guys just kind of like an overview of some of his accomplishments and his career, and obviously offer condolences from the VIP crew to the family and friends and boxing world for George Foreman. After winning gold in 68, he turned pro in 69. That's a very important number because I'll circle back and kind of expound on my point of why turning pro in 1969 is such a crazy thing. Fast forward a few years, 1973, he fought a then undefeated Joe Frazier, knocked him out in 2 rounds, which was another insane accomplishment because Joe Frazier was mowing over guys at that time, and George Foreman made it look easy, becoming the heavyweight champion of the world. And I'm kind of pushing through this thing because I don't want this to be too long, but in 1974, at 40-0, George Foreman fought Muhammad Ali. Everyone kind of knows what happened there. He was knocked out by Muhammad Ali. The crazy thing is in 81 fights, 81 pro fights, Muhammad Ali is the only person to knock out George Foreman. And we all know it was kind of more fatigue than hurt. He had a hell of a chin. He had a hell of a right hand. Great puncher. And just the fact that Muhammad Ali in 81 pro fights was the only one to stop George Foreman not only shows you how great Muhammad Ali was, but it showed the true grit and the true warrior that George Foreman was. The reason I said turning pro in 1969 was a very important number because in 1994, fast forward to 1994, he became the oldest heavyweight champ in boxing history at age 45 when he knocked out Michael Moore in the 10th round of a fight in which he was losing handily, but they say power's the last thing to go. He hit Michael Moore with a flush 1-2, and it was all she wrote. Everyone remembers the famous Jim Lampley line of, he did it. So, and you can see George Foreman just looking up in the sky. George Foreman was a guy that continuously pivoted and reinvented himself after the Ali loss. I think he took 2 years off. He came back. I think he fought 5 times. Yes, he fought 5 times in 1987 in his comeback. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit. So he fought 5 times after he lost to Muhammad Ali. His first fight back after a 2-year layoff was a fight against another deceased amazing guy, Ron Lau. And that is probably the best 5 rounds of heavyweight boxing I've ever seen in my life. If you've never seen the Ron Lau George Foreman fight, go check it out. It literally was 5 rounds of just chaos. Them knocking each other down. Inevitably, George Foreman knocked him out and got the win. In 1977, after losing to Jimmy Young, George Foreman took 10 years off and came back in 1987, and that's when he fought 5 times. When I say reinvented himself, he came back after the Ali fight, obviously after the 10-year layoff, with a different physique. He was obviously heavier, had the fight. He fought similar to what he did when he was smaller, but just he kind of adopted the cross-face defense and things like that. Always had an amazing chin, always had amazing heart. And, you know, just the pivot outside of boxing, everyone's familiar. Honestly, a lot of people in this generation only knows him for the George Foreman grill. They don't even know that he was probably, arguably, depending on who you talk to, a top 10 heavyweight of all time. George Foreman was an amazing fighter. He was an amazing entrepreneur. His smile lit up the room. When he spoke, everyone listened. And it was truly sad to get on social media and see that he passed away. Just a few years ago, they showed he put up footage of him hitting the heavy bag, and even in his 70s, I wouldn't want to be punched by George Foreman. He was a hell of a guy. He was charismatic, and he literally reinvented himself and pivoted outside of boxing. He made a ton of money off the grill. And I'm just glad that his movie Big George Foreman, he was able to see that come to fruition and on the big screen before he passed away. I thought they did a hell of a job with that movie. Rest in peace to George Foreman, to his family, friends, and the boxing world. We lost a great one. Also, Livingston Bramble. Livingston Bramble was one of the most charismatic lightweights. By all accounts, he definitely fought. His career probably ran a little too long. He fought for 23 years. He was a lightweight champion from 1984 to 1986. He has 2 pivotal wins over Ray Boom Boom Mancini, who's a Hall of Famer. Believe he ended up losing his title to Edwin Rosario, if I'm not mistaken. But a hell of a athlete, hell of a fighter, and just such a character. He was one of the first guys. He came to the ring with a boa constrictor around his neck. He was one of the first guys that kind of truly grasped the idea of marketing in the sport of boxing. So rest in peace to Livingston Bramble. Could not finish this thing without shouting him out. His career literally went from 1980 to 2003. Just to circle back to George Foreman right quick. George Foreman started his pro career in 1969. And he retired in 1997. Losing a majority decision to Shannon Briggs. So it just shows you the the generations of fighters that got their ass kicked by George Foreman. 76-5, 68 knockouts, amazing heavyweight, and a true icon and a legend of the sport. When guys start throwing that legend word around, you really truly got to look at a guy like George Foreman, and in some cases scale back saying that word so much, because he was truly a legend. Rest in peace, George Foreman. Rest in peace, Livingston Bramble.